Hey friends, this is Dolynny TV. Glad to have you aboard this afternoon as we set up the evening edition here on the channel on what has been day 3 since the offer sheets. It's now Thursday as we talk, and my goodness, isn't it crazy how time passes when you're not having fun? Well, the Oilers obviously still deliberating what to do, and that sets us up for more speculation from Bob Stauffer, some information from Elliotte Friedman, and of course, kind of just going about our business and trying to figure out what's next for the Edmonton Oilers. That and more here on the edition of Dolynny TV tonight. Again, thanks for being aboard. If you're new to the channel, I would encourage you to hit that subscribe button here on the channel. If you've been kind of tagging along here the past few episodes, staying up to date with this RFA situation, offer sheets, whatever you want to call it, I'd love to have you join along. I think there's been a lot of great news this summer and only more news to come as the offseason winds down and we get into the NHL regular season. So what we know, well, today there's kind of some speculation that things are starting to lean towards the Oilers signing only Dylan Holloway. That at least is starting to become, I think, kind of the general discourse, consensus, conversation, whatever you want to say, in terms of how best to approach this. Of course, it was Holloway who signed the lower AAV with St. Louis at 2.29. It was Holloway who more or less just secured his roster spot for the next 2 years as opposed to securing dollars, right? I think the Oilers would have preferred to sign Holloway to a cheap 2-year deal, but likely if they could get him on a cheap deal and only for 1 year, they still would have done it. So that's where Holloway had to secure himself a chance to win as well. And hey, you know what? End of the day, his number is not a screw you number like a 4.58 for a guy who has just about a full season in the NHL played with really not a great number of production in Philip Broberg. So to that, we get to the news here. Enough of me just yammering on camera. This is where, obviously, Oiler Alert doing the great work this past season, continuing this summer, covering Elliotte Friedman over on 630 Ched's Oilers Now with Bob Stauffer. I missed the Elliotte Friedman hit, but as far as you can go back and watch, listen, whatever the case might be, the Friedman's going back and reinforcing what I just said. The consensus starting to become Holloway will be matched, and Friedman also speculating that Broberg might not have changed his mind about his trade request from December, and that could have factored into the contract negotiations. And Stauffer adds that if he still prefers a trade, that should play into whether the Oilers should match or not. I will note, Patrick and I had a conversation, Patrick from over on the Oilers Fanatic. I'll encourage you to check out his video today, a little bit different from mine, but also along the same lines here in a little bit. I would encourage you to kind of take a little page from what Patrick and I were discussing on the ride through traffic today, simply discussing the fact that for Philip Broberg, yeah, he might prefer a trade now, but if he ends up being matched, stays in Edmonton, you win a cup or two, those words are from Patrick, not I, but you win a cup or two, that changes kind of the dynamic of how this all goes over the next few years if Philip Broberg continues to be an Oiler, right? Does he hate being an Oiler 2 years from now with 2 cups in the bag? Probably not. Every player likes cups. So that is just a note there from Patrick kind of following his video today. Free agents, and this is where I will defer to Patrick for the full discussion, although this has been kind of a section that I have to put in my video just simply because what Patrick discussed in his video today was reinforced in some discussion with a caller from Nanaimo on Bob Stauffer's Oilers Now, basically speculating that the Oilers should, could, might pivot to Barrie and Schultz. Tyson, what does that mean? Like, seriously, how do you should, could, would, or should, could, might? Basically, the Oilers, when you look at it, they have multiple options here, and obviously not matching the offer sheet for Philip Broberg is one. However, it leaves your defense severely weakened when you're starting to talk about Stetcher Brown being full-time number 6 defenseman for you. Not necessarily the worst, and I think we're comfortable doing that. But what everybody has to remember is you move Cody Ceci back up there with Darnell Nurse. And I don't think that's what everybody wants to do for the health of the defense. And if Stetcher or Brown are on the third pair, Kulak's not going to see a heck of a lot of ice time either. So magically, in this whole offseason craziness, you've got two guys who once upon a time were stud defensemen or stud point-producing defensemen in the Edmonton Oilers D-core, and Justin Schultz and Tyson Barrie. They're available on the free agent market. Well, can I also add a little just inside the life of the Oilers piece here? These two guys are still best friends with pretty much every single Oiler on the team, as far as anything social media over the past 2-3 years from the players of the Oilers and these two guys has proven. So when you're talking about why those guys would fit, why they'd be useful, there is to some degree a list here that you can build, and I've got it put together for you. Why them, right? Why would Bob Stauffer even speculate? Why would he think? I know I took some heat for this yesterday on Rasmus Anderson. Bob Stauffer just had a thought about, hey, you could grab Anderson from Calgary if they're willing. And why would I talk about that? Because usually, as proven year in, year out, when it comes to the trade deadline, every year Bob Stauffer will just think something up, right? Magically think something up. Like he was thinking about Henrique and Carrick quite a bit before the Oilers traded him. I think it was years back he was thinking about Athanasiou, and magically the Oilers traded for him, right? Is Bob Stauffer, when he thinks, it's not an educated wish. It's more of a educated guess, being as connected inside the Oilers organization as he is. So if you pivot to Tyson Barrie, Justin Schultz, Tyson Barrie or Justin Schultz, one or the other, because you can also throw in the Cody Ceci mix in there and sign both if you want and save some cap space and maybe realistically really do some crazy things with this team. If Stan Bowman and Jeff Jackson want to get back to doing what Jeff was doing in July, that'd be great. Why Barrie and, of course, Schultz? Well, where are the teams at, right? I think that one's a very simple situation. Is the team has evolved from the days of the defensemen just sit back and, you know what, if they help you win a game, great. If they produce a point, great, whatever. The Oilers have evolved into a team that is capable of getting scoring out of the defense. That's something that I have long advocated will make the Oilers successful. Bouchard does that almost all by himself. Ekholm's a capable 40-point player. Darnell Nurse, with a capable right-hand shot partner, would be capable of producing 40 as well. And then you got to think Kulak's a guy who, year in, year out, he's a wild card, but he's capable of shooting the puck to the back of the net. We've seen it. And of course, you add in a guy like Tyson Barrie or Justin Schultz. Those are guys that are good locks on an Oilers team, at least, for 20-plus points a season. And heaven forbid Evan Bouchard gets hurt. They're guys that would automatically go up and run your power play, whether Cody Ceci's in town or not. And then all of a sudden the points come for a cheaper contract, and you've got now value for your dollar much more than you already had. So when you're talking about these guys too, Stars taking less, these guys aren't going to take much out of the pocket, and it would likely only be a one-year deal to kind of fix the situation that arose with Philip Broberg and the RFA situation, offer sheets for him and Holloway. So with the Stars taking less, you want to make sure you're committing to the culture the team has. And as I mentioned, when you look at the culture this team has around the periphery, guys like Zach Kassian are still around. Guys, obviously, like Sam Gagner are still around. Guys like Justin Schultz and Tyson Barrie are still very much a fabric of the group of this team that makes up the Edmonton Oilers core players who are here to win a Stanley Cup, and not just maybe like a Jeff Skinner, a hired gun, right? And I'm sure Jeff Skinner will fit in beautifully with this team, but like, you understand where we're going. Victor Arvidsson kind of fits the mold in with the Matthias Ekholm segment of the group. So you get where we're going right there, right? So that's fair enough. And obviously, you want to win, right? And I think that's something that was evident with Tyson Barrie when he signed here way back when, is he wanted to win here, and his opportunity just never came because the Oilers desperately needed somebody much different than Tyson Barrie when his time came to an end here, i.e. Matthias Ekholm. But there now is a place for that puck-moving, puck-carrying, puck kind of distributing defenseman on the bottom pair, now that you've solidified that Brett Kulak is a number 5 defenseman on a Stanley Cup caliber Edmonton Oilers squad. And of course, Justin Schultz man, when you talk about everything comes full circle, how full circle, almost 10 years, whatever it will be later since we dealt Justin Schultz, it would be to see him win a Stanley Cup in Edmonton as a veteran. That's something to talk about. And the coaching as well. This is something that actually makes, number one, here the slide that got us talking about those bullet points. This is what makes this from Stauffer make sense, and this is why it's not an educated wish, just a thought, whatever you want to say. It's an educated guess. If the Oilers don't sign Broberg, they will pivot to a guy like Schultz or Barrie, and those are the two best available on the market that fit the need based on criteria here listed. The coaching, why do those guys work? Well, let's just take a quick look. Who has Paul Coffey in the past 2 years? Guys that honestly some fans, as fans did with Schultz and Barrie, were ready to run out of town for a lack of this, a lack of that, or a lack of this and a lack of that. Well, at the end of the day, Evan Bouchard and Philip Broberg, right? Who both, by the end of the season, were top 4 right-hand or right-side defensemen that led you to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Insane, I know, right? So fans ready to run these guys out. Fans are still ready to run Broberg out. He's kind of done that a little bit to himself here over the past week, but that's aside. There's still probably 10% of the fan base or more that would love nothing more but to see Bouchard punted out of town as soon as his contract's up this year as well. Again, you gotta kind of take the grains with salt, but you get where you're going is like this matches the Paul Coffey stereotype of take defenseman that has skill with puck and skill with point scoring and build him into a defenseman that can defend and also move puck. Well, guess what? You've got that in Justin Schultz and Tyson Barrie. You coach those guys up like Paul Coffey knows how, and suddenly you've got on your team, you're not content, and you'll likely upgrade for the first time finally on Cody Ceci at the trade deadline with the asset you get for Philip Broberg, right? It's a 2025. It's an immediate second round pick. Well, guess what? That's that plus Cody Ceci plus a prospect. Yeah, you can probably upgrade pretty good in your top 4 for not too much more cap. And when you consider how much you're saving on not signing Broberg and also not giving Broberg 1.3, you're giving one of these guys $1 million or less, right? I think Tyson Barrie will be just glad to take $775 in an NHL job if he were to get it in Edmonton. And I think for Justin Schultz, you just kind of take whatever's available to you. And if this is the best option, you ain't going to get a better option for $1 million. Well, you take it. So even no matter what, the Oilers, even on the baseline we were talking about last week, are saving cap space with these ideas. So again, with Bob Stauffer, it might just be a thought today, but it's already an educated guess. And it's probably something that the Oilers might, could, would, should pivot to if they need to. So again, I could cover the Leon Draisaitl news today from Elliot Friedman. I could cover this, that, or the other thing, but I think really this is where the main focus is. Like I said, my direction on Leon Draisaitl, I'm not going to worry about it till next Wednesday when we know this is all wrapped up. Again, Elliot Friedman just basically wrapping everybody else's news and saying it'll be done for sure unless there's something crazy. Well, that we've known all summer. I'm not worried about that. I'm good. And secondary to that as well, what I'll tell you is the status of Evander Kane will fully dictate kind of all the micromanagement moves that happen with this, that, or the other thing when it comes to Broberg signing, not signing in Edmonton. But I think quite directly, you match Holloway, and then you let Broberg go and you pivot to an option like Barrie or Schultz, and you allow yourself the room to upgrade at the trade deadline on Cody Ceci. And now you have 2 top 4 defensemen, and you have 3 guys who can capably give you 12 minutes a night in the playoffs on the third pair if they're sheltered. Friends, this is Dolynny TV. Thanks for being aboard. Long edition. I did not expect to go 14 and a half today. My apologies. I guess I've wasted this much time. I've given you a good kind of amble about what the channel's about. I'd consider subscribing if I were you. Just stay up to date with all this craziness, at least till Tuesday. Give me a chance till then. And other than that, thanks for being aboard here today, and we'll catch you a little later on if there's any breaking news. If not, we'll talk tomorrow. I am up on out of here.